Hi folks, Canadian Prepper here. Well, I'm just out here in the middle of nowhere on this beautiful sandy beach. There's nobody here, just me and my son, me and my main man over here, out there floating on a log. This really is a picturesque beach, and it brings to mind a critical life lesson. Because you see, this beach that I'm on right now, surrounded by freshwater lake, mountains everywhere, not a person in sight, not a human being in sight. And yet, just hundreds of meters away, there is a huge congregation of tourists on a crowded, congested, noisy beach with dogs running around, with geese pooping on all the tourists, with noisy kids, with all kinds of signs and barricades and docks and buoys and ropes saying where you can and cannot go. And yet just a few hundred meters down the road, there's no police, there's no lifeguards, there's nothing. It's just a beautiful, pristine, sandy beach that my little guy here, who is no more than 4 feet tall, can go up, and the water is only chest high at around 100 meters out. I mean, it is picturesque, beautiful, pristine, sandy beaches, no bugs. Okay? Now, was it difficult to get here? Not really. It was literally about a half an hour walk, and it was a hike that anybody could have did, with the exception of people who have really bad knees, maybe. But 90% of people would be able to do it no problem. A few hundred meters away from civilization. So why is it that we can just come out here and there's nobody here? I mean, this is what some people in certain places of the world would pay thousands of dollars to experience. And we just walked over here for free. Our own personal, private beach, complete with the sand dunes and the 100-meter walkout, and yet there's nobody here. Well, my friends, we can extrapolate this survival lesson to life and understand that the majority of people refuse to go that extra mile, even if paradise awaits. Most of these tourists, they go out to the beach because they want to experience nature. They want to be in the sun, they want to be in the water, okay? They do it to escape civilization. And yet most people will still crowd and congregate in densely packed, noisy areas. Thank God, because that means we have this little private beach to ourselves, which is just a few hundred meters down the road. But this happens everywhere you go in the world. And this is a crucial life lesson when it comes to survival and preparedness. And this is why what we do as preppers is really going to be easy if you can just think outside the box. When you can know which rules is it acceptable to violate. Because we're actually not violating any rules in being here. It's perfectly legal for us to be here. So yet, why are 99% of people over there and only one guy and his kid out here enjoying this amazing sandy beach? There's two reasons. One, because people are lazy. The other reason, it's conformity. Hey Dominic, don't go too far out. Just had to send him a little friendly reminder. It's conformity. You see, if everybody was coming over here, if this was the tourist attraction, everybody would be here. But the majority of people are so afraid of acting independently nowadays. And this is because their survival depends on it. Urban survival depends on dependency and codependency. Urban survival depends on going with the flow and obeying the rules, because urban survival depends on the machine. Survival out there in the nomadic free world in nature requires you to think independently, requires you to think for yourself. And I think people are just averse to thinking for themselves because it takes a lot of cognitive energy to think for yourself, whether it's in an entrepreneurial endeavor or the stock market or running a business or whatever sort of ambitious pursuit you might embark on in life. Most people are afraid to go that extra mile, and if they just would, paradise awaits. And this is great for preppers and survivalists because when the shit hits the fan, the herd is going to go one way. You have to go in the other direction. Not always, but you have to know when to go in the other direction. I'm just absolutely amazed that places like this exist. And it's just a stone's throw away from where everybody is. And if the last few years have taught us everything, it's that what everybody's doing isn't always the right thing to do. This is proof positive. Now, right now, I'm out here with my son, and I must say, guys, I'm really enjoying hanging out with this little guy. He's 8 years old now, and so he's old enough now to keep up with me on the trails. His sister doesn't like, she's 7, she doesn't really like to do this kind of stuff as much. I've tried to encourage her. Maybe, she'll be a late bloomer, I hope so, because I'd like to take her out doing things with this. But it's very important that at this age, you teach them this life lesson, that if you go that extra mile, there's a reward that few will receive. That for those, the bold who are willing to just travel just a little bit beyond the parameter set by society, set by culture, there's great rewards. And I'm not saying I'm Jacques Cousteau. I'm not saying I'm some explorer who is exceptional in any respect. I'm just a guy who goes a little bit further than everybody else. I'm not like one of the adrenaline junkies who seems to have a death wish and just does everything and anything right to the extreme outer limits. But you don't have to be. This is a crucial lesson to teach your children. And I must say, I'm really enjoying hanging out with my son, man. It's the best feeling to know that you got a little buddy and he's learning. He's modeling every move that I make. And one of the most important things I think you can teach them is you gotta go and get outside of where everybody else is. Not because you're better than everybody else, but because that is what's going to make the difference in a crazy situation, okay? Because most people are conditioned to be obedient, not because they're stupid, but because that's what's required to survive and thrive in an urban environment. A person who can monkey branch all of the regulations imposed upon them in the city very well can go very far in life. If you're rough around the edges, rule breaker, you're not going to do well in that sort of environment. So it's a survival instinct for a lot of these people who come out here to stay and clump up in herds. But that's going to work in an urban environment where the rule of law is highly overextended. It's not going to work in the wilderness, which requires... Hey Dominic, what is that animal on there? On that log up there, on that lean-to? Sorry guys. Go check it out. Looks like some kind of chipmunk or something. Maybe we'll eat it for dinner. It's not going to work out here in the wilderness. You got to think for yourself. You got to know when to... Oh, it was just a bird. Never mind. My eyes are getting bad in my old age. You having fun out here, buddy?
Yeah.
Right on. Anyways, guys, we're going to start heading back to civilization. But just remember, when you're out in the wilderness, you find yourself at a roadside attraction, there's a bunch of tourists around you. Chances are they're going to congregate, they're going to clump up, and they're not going to go any further past the what's deemed socially acceptable parameter. I encourage you, I challenge you to go just a little bit further, and you will find paradise, my friends. Thanks for watching. Canadian Prepper out.